Morning, everybody. So good to see you all. Thank you so much for being here. And yes, we will indeed talk about CME business also. I know we've had chats yesterday evening, and all of us do want to talk about how are we doing, particularly with the telecom business. When Jagdish comes on stage later with our vertical heads like Dhanashri, we will indeed talk about that. We will also speak about a little bit more during the breaks. And we've already had some chats. So one word, yes, we are extremely excited about that business. But to Vrinda's point and how CP pointed out earlier, over the last 12 to 14 months, CP entrusted in me the responsibility to assist and supervise and help our lines of services. BPS with Biren, Born XDS with Dilip, Comviva, our product business with Mao, network services, of course, with Manish Mangal, our engineering business, most of it. And I'll tell you what I did. I just did two things. One, because of and you heard some of those leaders here, the rock stars and stalwart that they are and their businesses are, I just left them alone. But the second thing I did is I just learned from it, particularly on how these businesses were innovating every single day in their own unique, innate way to try and add value to their respective customers through our own IP, right? So that was very essential as a learning through that process. CP stood here and asked and said that we'll be addressing a question that why should we be in the platform business? I hope at the end of these 20-30 minutes and during the conversations that we will have, we'll be able to hopefully move the needle on the convincing aspect on one or two things. One, I don't think it's an option. It's a mandatory thing. It's a huge differentiator for a company like us to continue to innovate on our IP, on our platforms, our product business, and we continue to invest in that, number one. Number two, I think we owe it to our customers. For 30 years, we've been working with these customers, now over 1,250 odd customers. The amount of learnings we get from them, we derive from them, the value that we have delivered over a period of time, there is unbelievable amount of IP that we have collected that we need to take advantage of and provide value back to the same customers that we work with. And the third, I think as the pandemic may have induced this, whatever you call it, the talent war, right? But the pandemic also induced one more thing. I think it's clearly that the new normal model of delivering service, I think is here and will continue to stay, right? It's a non-linear model. It's a model where some might even argue it's more like a service that will be delivered like a software and not software as a service as well. More of that as we unveil and look at our overall approach, our strategy, and most importantly, our success in what we have achieved in the platform strategy over the last 12 months. And hence, why should we all be very excited as we go and dive deeper into this business? First and foremost, I truly believe that this is indeed a non-linear growth opportunity for us. Some of the statistics that, or the advisory words that we keep hearing from people that we talk to in industry are pretty compelling. It's very clear that companies that have continued to invest in platforms have a much better chance to grow at a faster clip. Number two, the one thing that we have always been doing is we have always said we are 2 mile wide and 10 mile deep, and that's all about creating that stickiness with each of our customers. Platforms and our ability to work very closely with them at a core IP level improves our chances, this industry's chances to continue to get a much higher degree of repeat buys. Third and foremost, Rohit stood here and spoke about that little cross in terms of improvement in EBIT. Well, clearly this is not the only lever that we have. Obviously, it's you need a lot more, but this is one lever and one area which clearly can drive a better yield, because this is all about doing a lot more with a lot less, right? And that's why the platform business is equally strategic. As far as our right to win is concerned, it's very clear. Before we look at what we have achieved and how we go from here, I think let's try and understand what exactly is a platform and you know, what are the building blocks of a platform? Why do we call this a platform and then a product strategy? So that we are not leaving any of you confused about what our strategy is. So our platform strategy is built on a large swath of code base that we call as our innovation hub. So think of this as one single massive piece of software that is centrally sitting and helping the entire company, all our customers, all industry sectors, all competency units, all pillars and business units that you saw. It helps them drive their IP development here on that one particular code base. What that innovation hub really has are about 4 layers. Right? It has a lot of utilities, whether it is managing how do we integrate with cloud, how do we integrate with from a DevSecOps, from a secure code based standpoint, how do we build data and insights, right, at a very foundational level, how do we ensure that there is a very common experience layer in terms of managing all channels of engagement for our customers with their respective customers, and of course drive very basic use cases in terms of personalization and hyper automation. But the fourth important thing that we have is a set of capabilities that we have built that are essentially around things that can be repeatedly used multiple times across different. So you take one industry vertical, you take a set of capabilities that solve a very specific functional problem or a very specific technology problem. So just to go back to this slide so that I explain this better, we do not sell what you see as layer 1 and layer 4. That's not monetized. We don't sell that as a license. We don't ever tell the customer that this is what you're buying. That is what we build all our products on top of. What we sell is what you see at the right at the top, which is the modular platforms. That's monetizable. But how we monetize that and why those are differentiated is based on the 4 layers at the bottom. I hope that's very clear. So the question is, what are those, the top layer really that you see, which is the modular platforms as we call them. This is what it is. Essentially, our platform strategy is all about empowering the C-suite of any enterprise in any industry sector, right? All the verticals that we serve, to solve 3 primary problems, right? We spoke about MWC. All we heard from the customers there, all innovation that we saw and what we presented were also in these 3 areas. When CTL comes later, or when Jagdish and teams and Kunal come here, ask them this question, they will also be talking about the same thing, and that is to solve 3 fundamental inherent problems. Number 1 is to continue to automate and help take cost out and simplify the operation. So there is IP that essentially will help us to try and take cost out, improve the optimization, improve the efficiencies of any operation, whether it's a CIO or a COO for that matter. 2, it's about building the new stack much faster. I was telling somebody last night that 10 years ago, to put a new BSS system in telecom alone would have taken 18 months. We just finished a rollout in Singapore. It took us 7 months, and mind you, we lost 2 months, the very first 2 months, because of some change in the organization on the customer side. So in essence, was done in 5 months' time. What has changed? What has changed is because the underlying software that is available with us now, we were able to bridge that gap from time to market, time to realize the potential of that software much, much faster, right? And the third is all about monetizing the assets or participating in the revenue cycle for the customers. So when we look at platforms, when we look at our product strategy, when we work on top of those 4 layers of innovative software that we have, it is in essence to drive value for our customers in these 3 segments, right? I hope that makes sense. So let's try and unpeel this onion a little bit and try and look at what we have done over the last 12 months before we take a step forward, right? And it's been a phenomenal year from the progress that we have made with each of these individual products and the modular platforms that we have built on top of the underlying architecture, right? Let's take NetOps.ai. It's still a story that has, that is evolving. We just won about 7 customers at this point. 7 of our existing customers are now on the NetOps.ai platform. We announced one such deal only last week or 2 weeks ago on 23rd of February, where the entire network automation for rolling out and for managing the maintenance of an existing installed base of a network is going to be driven through the NetOps.ai platform. Right? It's all about shifting left from reactive, preventive, maybe predictive maintenance more towards cognitive. Right? Blue Marble is essence, after a long time we finally have a brilliant story of creating a SaaS-based BSS platform to take the industry bigwigs head on in this space. Right? It's about 18 live customers as we speak. Outside in the experience zone, you will see one platform called UDXP, which is a unified experience platform, where we have combined capabilities of 3 things that we have. Blue Marble, Mobilytics, which is a CVM platform, and Born XDSS capability from a user experience standpoint. And have created an entirely different outcome for a challenger telco, right, in one part of the world. I mean, the capabilities that these platforms now bring, I think, are second to none in the industry. But the best news is we've just begun. Our journey has just about begun. On the sustainability side, and Sandeep Chandna is here, we can all talk to him a little later. We believe that from the whole sustainability and ESG standpoint, the addressable market is still evolving, still large at this point in time. We have started working very, very closely by leveraging our data AI abilities of that foundation hub and starting to address and work with some of our key customers, from a smart data acquisition standpoint. This is where the platforms and our capabilities come into force pretty nicely. If you were to ask me that who addresses the network field force automation, the instant answer can be network services. And yet it is Biren and his team that basically looked at the data science that we were producing inside the BPO business and created Yantra.ai to disrupt how the field is automated. Not just in one industry like telecom, you can imagine any industry out there. Whether it's the healthcare industry, the logistics, distribution, doesn't matter. Anybody who has a field. And we just launched it about 5 to 6 months ago, this platform, and already have 3 live customers very early. And yet, the biggest right to win we have is the fact that that access right that we have to the customers and the proximity that we have with them relationship-wise, we can always go and say, hey, take a look at this. This potentially solves a problem and can solve this problem on a very repeatable, very consistent basis again and again and again. In the core cloud infrastructure space, I think what we have done over a period of time is we have created this technology and platform called Cloud Blaze Tech. The addressable market for this is just massive. Again, our lens is very specific. We are looking at our existing customer base and going and attacking each of them in improving the speed at which we will be able to help migrate the workloads faster, the speed at which we will be able to help them discover and do the assessments of what should go on cloud, what should not go on cloud much, much faster. Right? We already have 30 customers, and like I said, 1,250 odd customers, 30 on this platform. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if by end of this year, next time we all meet, we won't have another 100 customers on this platform. AFTs, I think is you may have heard of something called warranties in the past. We've now created a more generic industry-wide program that supports largely manufacturing in the aftermarket space, but in essence, the code base that we have can be used for any other use case where you're talking about solving problems of aftermarket support to any existing customer, whether it's an electronic, automotive, or any other product that sits inside a premise for a consumer or a customer at that. A few more. Mobilytics, I think, is an award-winning platform that we have created around our customer value management. right? I mean, this is something which is just evolving so nicely now. I think we have had CEOs of enterprises coming and telling us that they derive maximum consumer value or customer lifecycle value through Mobilityx as a platform, right? I think that story continues to evolve extremely well for us. A very young story for us is Yabex in the cloud lending and the savings area. We've just hit about a million unique customers recently. And like I said, maybe the speed at which we are growing every single quarter, every 3 months, hopefully we will be at about 10 to 15 million ARR by end of this year. Small stories, but the potential that each of them have is absolutely phenomenal. Mobiquity is an older story for us, but now evolving quite nicely as the next phase of the software that we are writing on it from a digital payment standpoint, right? Somebody in MWC came over from Africa and said, do you realize that 70% of our GDP runs through the Mobiquity platform? Because that country, that small African country, relies a lot more on the mobile payment as a method of payments in their community. So the impact that each of these innovations in the past and going forward will make on our customers and our ability to add service layer on top of this platform and this modular product level, I think is just absolutely phenomenal. So if I say that platform going forward is an essential element to how we will differentiate as a company across industries, across our lines of businesses, I think it is something which is being derived based on the success that we have had in the last 12 months. We believe this business is poised to continue to grow much faster, about 2x at least in the next 3 years, maybe more. Right? I believe I'm being conservative here when I say that, because our base is not that small and yet not that big enough yet in terms of the impact that it will make. Most importantly, I think we have figured the conundrum. After a few years of R&D and experimentation in this space, we have now understood what does it take to build a world-class platform and then world-class of products sitting on top of them. We have figured what problems do we need to solve, as far as looking at all the databases that we have in terms of what are the projects, the thousands of projects that we deliver, what do we derive from there. This is a new medicine that we are giving to an evolving set of problems as we go forward. And last but not the least, very soon, in about a month from now, sometime in April, we will also be launching our Comviva 2.0 plan, because in essence, the Comviva platform will own the entire platform strategy for the company. That does not mean that all product business will be done inside Comviva. We'll do it everywhere. But the core platform and the engineering capability for driving this initiative will be housed under that. We already have added significant leadership to that unit, right? I mean, Vineet is sitting here. He's adding the strategy piece to the platform strategy. He's come from one of the acquisitions that we did called Digital on Us. We've already acquired a chief growth officer sitting in Texas to run the global sales for our platform and product business. We'll continue to look at that, but it's very clear. The overall technology roadmap of our platform strategy is very, very clear to us now. The success that we have had in the last 12 months gives us enough confidence that we know what it takes to continue to develop this. It's also very clear that given the fact that the customers are asking us very pointed questions in terms of speed of delivery, cost of delivery, and the business outcomes, I think for that very repeatable and very consistent patterns of results, I think it's important to lead off IP, lead off our product, not just through our people and processes. So I think this is a technology-led, IP-led effort to essentially solve the same problem. And hence, if any of you still believe that this is a business that we should not be in, I think we need to understand Tech Mahindra at a very core innate level, and this industry at large. It's not just a Tech Mahindra story in my view, right? I hope that was helpful. We can have more conversations on this as we go forward. Thank you.